My name is Martin Franklin, head teacher in Morriston Comprehensive School. Morriston is a school serving the sort of northeastern part of Swansea. We always class ourselves as very much a true comprehensive school. We've children who come from areas of quite high deprivation, and I think we've got children of all sorts of abilities here as well. But I think back in late 2020, we fully appreciated that we hadn't made sufficient progress in our sort of journey for Curriculum for Wales. We took the decision then to appoint what we called at the time Curriculum for Wales champion, who would sort of fast track our approach to Curriculum for Wales in Morriston. They've worked with, given them sort of really useful periods of time to work with department leaders as well, not just for the odd hour, but by taking staff off timetable for a day to work on Curriculum for Wales themes with the 3 members of staff as well, and that certainly fast-tracked our approach.
I think, personally speaking, I find the challenge of Curriculum for Wales is massive. There's reams of policy that practitioners and leadership need to have due regard for, and then it's about translating that into practice. What is the action actually going to look like by the time you've synthesised and understood the aims and aspirations of Curriculum for Wales guidance, which I think everybody agrees with. But it's a case of how do we actually put that idea into practice. So I settled on the idea of Cotter's change management model, which is 8 different stages of affecting change. Starting with creating this sense of urgency, forming the sort of team that will drive the change, creating that vision, communicating the vision, and then moving through to empowering action. But what we found is that model in particular has been really helpful in understanding what steps we need to take next as a leadership team. So we took a long time to sort of understand our starting point, and then it was a case of developing a vision.
From a personal perspective, I found the curriculum design process reassuring, because initially I was nervous about the whole redesign, because obviously I'm not an NQT and I've been around the block for a number of years, and consequently this is a step into the unknown. So initially hesitant, because obviously teaching is teaching, so that doesn't change. Pedagogy is pedagogy is pedagogy, and it is the art and science of teaching. So the focus being now, instead of a national curriculum, which when I started the national curriculum was starting, to being a local curriculum that meets the needs of our learners. And the process began by focusing on what do our learners need in this locality.
We have had a key part in speaking about what we would like to see, because we know what other students will want to see as well, like how to change it.
I think it's really important that as pupils we are involved in the curriculum, because it shows a different perspective from the teachers. So while they may see it as a learning perspective, so what they will teach to others, we can see it from actually this is what we will be able to learn and what we can take away from it.
We all met as one big group in the hub, and we all talked and discussed about what a brilliant learner is. Then we had like a smaller group, and we all talked about like the key points of being a brilliant learner and what it actually means to the school.
What that looked like was taking the local intentions, which, as you may have noticed as you come into the school, inspire, engage, achieve is the sort of right at the core of business here at Morriston. We then set that against the national purposes to be ambitious, capable, ethical, informed. And we built our curriculum vision around the intersection between those 2 points.
What we've also tried to do in terms of curriculum change is make it as personal as possible. We've taken department leaders off timetable for whole days, where we've tried to coach and mentor them through some of the things that we've understood with the time we've been allowed.
So we wanted to involve our staff in sort of thinking about the intentions and the purposes, and that's where we very rudimentarily laid out a series of A3 papers in an inset situation, put colleagues together in various groups across various areas of learning experience, various subject disciplines, various levels of experience within their own practice, to ask them, well, when we say inspire a love of learning and we think about perhaps ethical informed citizens, what does that look like? What do we currently do? What might we like to do? What are our aspirations? What do we actually want to stop doing because it doesn't really fit in with our local intentions and our national purposes? And we've used the Welsh Government definition, the curriculum is everything the learner experiences, and that has been a real driving force, I think, in changing hearts and minds within the school, that whatever we talk about as a team, as teachers, as learners, as leadership, as governing body, it all comes back down to curriculum, because that is the experience of the child in pursuit of those four purposes. We were aware of the challenges practitioners faced in terms of they are still teaching, they are still working towards GCSEs and external exams with A-levels. So we didn't want to overload them with all of the information in one go. We tried to drip feed that kind of the need to know now, and this is the action we need from you.
We talked about what our values were, where we wanted to go with that, and then we were able to filter that back into our areas and then develop our schemes of learning from there.
And from my perspective then, being within the department, the head of department obviously attended lots of meetings, and we then came together to create a sequence of learning that we could develop based on the information passed down by the lead practitioners.
We've also tried to maintain an open door policy whereby people feel that they can come and see us anytime they want and question us, ask us any question that they may have. So our role has been to access that information and produce it or disseminate it throughout the year in chunks to make it manageable for staff, and to make it as well accessible for them whilst they are delivering a full timetable.
So they have a better understanding of curriculum development and also more confidence in order to bring about that change and act upon that change within their departments and within their classroom, which is what this is all about, really, effecting change within the classroom and to the pupils themselves.
Open, honest dialogue. So basically, we were able to say what we were worried about, what our concerns were, and enter into a dialogue that was honest, open, and reflective. So nothing's really been on or off the table in terms of our curriculum design process, and I think that's important, because I think if you approach this in terms of there is only one way, there aren't any pitfalls, this is going to be great, then you're going to make a mistake. Taking the guidance from the leadership team and then translating it into the curriculum area has been an interesting process where we have co-constructed the curriculum together as a department, using departmental time and other time that's been given to us in continual professional learning days. By working together, we have got the skeleton frame of a curriculum that is going to be challenging, that is going to build upon what we have, the discussions that have been held with our cluster primaries. And we've had a continual professional learning day with our cluster primaries looking at brilliant learners, etc. And having those cross-phase links are really important, because we're working on a model which is top-down, bottom-up, so that we share what we're doing and what they're doing, so that it becomes a bi-directional dialogue and a continual dialogue, so that we are able to continually challenge ourselves and our learners.
So we undertake evidence-informed practice. So every year we come up with a research-based question that we particularly want to focus on, that links to our department improvement plan or our school improvement plan. And then our findings then can be brought together and be used for our curriculum. So at the moment in our department we are looking at assessment, and we are looking what that looks like for the kids. So self-assessment, peer assessment, using Teams, using Google Forms, all of that type of thing. So we will use that information that we have then to decide how we are going to look at assessment for the curriculum, for the pupils too.
I think one thing that we felt was a challenge in the beginning was, how do we fit all this in? How do we do the research? But then by having the lead practitioners filtering down what was important to us, I think that allowed us to just focus on the key elements and how we're going to then develop that as a school.
So from my perspective, the biggest challenge was the idea of time, being busy teachers, and most teachers do have extra responsibilities. For example, I'm a progress leader as well as a classroom teacher. So my concern was the thought that where am I going to find the time to implement this brand new national curriculum? But by having the research approach and having lead practitioners who are able to find out the information, source that information, feed it back to us so that we can then narrow it down and focus just on what is needed in our area has really made it far less overwhelming and far easier to manage.
This is the next piece of information, digest it, we'll revisit it next week, and now this is the action. But we felt that rather than having just solely relying on sort of 1 hour a week over a period of time to think about things, it was more beneficial to bring colleagues together for an extended period of time, which we did over the course of a whole day, to just get them to think about and sort of maybe go down a route and then come back, because that's our experience at least of curriculum design. You have a great idea, you pursue it so far, and then you realise, oh, actually, in practice, that's not going to work, so we have to backtrack.
It's so important for us not to kind of get stuck in one place and think, right, it's done now, we've done the resources, we have to stay there. It's important for us to realise that the sequence of learners are quite fluid and that we can change them and strengthen them. You know, pupils are quite honest in saying what's working well and what isn't, and we use that to our advantage then as well to strengthen them as we go.
It's about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but also being prepared to try new things, to not be afraid of new things, but also to be understanding that as long as we understand why we're doing something and keeping at the heart of who we're doing this for, then that makes a massive difference.
As we have gone along and learned more and spoken about it through our our Curriculum for Wales champions and with SLT and other departments, we are getting more confident with it. So it is something now that we are really enjoying and really looking forward to doing. But like with everything, when you care, you want it to work. So still a little bit nervous, but we can't wait for it to roll out.